YouTube, what's going on now? Welcome back to another episode of D's Corner. We got a 3-round mock draft. I think it's 7, 9, maybe draft picks. I think 6 in the first round. Knock this out. Try to get it done as quick as possible. We are T minus like 6 days away from the first round of the 2026 NFL draft, and I can't wait. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Round one, we know where number one's going. We're going Fernando Mendoza, the Raiders. They've built everything this offseason pertaining to getting this young quarterback, getting him developed and ready to rock and roll. Surprise pick I have at number 2. I have the New York Jets going linebacker Sonny Styles out of Ohio State. I just think this is a generational type of specimen for defense. 6'4" or 6'5", 4'4", it's 245, ran a 4'4", can cover with play safety. He can actually come off the edge. He can blitz. There's so much you can do with Sonny Styles. The third pick, I have a trade. I have Dallas sending the 12th and the 10th pick to Arizona for the number 3 overall and safety Budda Baker. So this is kind of a 2-for-1 with Dallas here, and I have him going edge David Bailey out of Texas Tech. Pairing him with Rashawn Gary, you've beefed up your interior with Kenny Clark and Quentin Williams. Added to the secondary with a player like Budda Baker. We're talking about the Cowboys repeatedly year after year after year. This year, we're talking about if they can play bare minimum defense, they should be able to be a playoff team. We don't know what this first-time defensive coordinator is going to do. We don't know what he's going to call. We don't know how it's going to look, how he's going to lead. Budda Baker is a veteran player who can come in, really can play in any type of style. There's so much that he can do on that back end, getting everyone locked in. The 4th overall pick, we have the Tennessee Titans went wide receiver Carnell Tate. I've been trying to not give them Jeremiah Love, so this go around I went with somebody completely different. Carnell Tate, you have Wan'Dale Robinson, you still have Tony Pollard and Tajee Spears in the backfield with Cam Ward. You've got to get Cam Ward weapons. Calvin Ridley is still there. I think he took a pay cut. He could still be released or traded. Carnell Tate's a good pick here. The New York Giants at 5, I have them going tackle Francis Mauigoa. Just want to beef up that offensive front. You want to protect your quarterback. They could go Jeremiah Love as well, but again, try not to overfeed that pick. So with that being said, the Cleveland Browns want to trade down. The Minnesota Vikings have a ton of picks. They have a defensive coordinator who's going to be able to call a defense. We know his defenses have been top-notch. This offense added Kyler Murray. You still have Jordan Addison and everything that he's had going on. You have TJ Hawkinson at tight end. You got Justin Jefferson. You even brought back the running backs. But you make this trade, you only have to send up the 18th and the 49th to jump up to number 6 and select Jeremiah Love, pairing him with Kyler Murray. He is a player that you can spread out wide. So now you have really 5 wide receivers on the field with Kyler Murray and the speed and athleticism that he has. He has a hell of an arm as well. Playing indoors on that turf. I love Jeremiah Love for the Vikings. Arvell reslides in this mock draft, and he goes to the perfect fit, the perfect pairing with Dan Quinn, and he goes to the Washington Commanders at 7. Mansour Delane, the corner out of LSU, stays at home, goes to the New Orleans Saints at 8. Pick number 9, I have Ruben Bain Jr. sliding a little bit, falling to the Kansas City Chiefs. There's a lot of talk about a situation that Bain had in 2024 that teams are already aware of. Andy Reid is known for taking a player who has quote-unquote red flags or some character concerns, if you will. Travis Kelce had some coming out. Andy's a good guy to be able to get around those players, put them in an environment that's about winning, an environment about football, and really help these guys grow fast and become pros quicker. At 10, I have the Cincinnati Bengals selecting safety Caleb Downs out of Ohio State. This is a phenomenal pick. He's going to be a phenomenal football player no matter what team he goes to. Hell of a safety, can cover, can tackle, can line him up. He can even wear the green dot. There's so much that he can do. Pick 11, the Miami Dolphins are a complete rebuild. There's no reason to go out and try to get the sexy pick. beef up your trenches. You sign Malik Willis. You still have Devon A-Chain, who you're expecting to re-sign. You're going to have to acquire weapons, absolutely, but build up the trenches. Build up and have some protection so that you see what Malik Willis can do. I think the contract is pretty much written to where it's either a 1 or 2 year deal. This team is building for 27 and 28. Build with the trenches. Vega Ione out of Penn State is a hell of a player. Good first pick for this regime in Miami. The Cleveland Browns, after trading back, they're jumping up, giving up the 18th pick as well as a third this year to the Arizona Cardinals to select Monroe Freeland at 12, the tackle out of Georgia. Arizona is racking up picks, and this is something that they may have to do. They're not winning the Super Bowl this year. They're probably not even going to be a playoff team this year. The other 3 teams in their division are like that, so they're going to have to build. 13, the LA Rams select Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. I just think this would be a phenomenal pick. I think they should go weapon, get as much around Matt Stafford for his final run, maybe actually get Devontae Adams a Super Bowl. Puka Nacua is in a facility. We'll see how that goes, but Sadiq's big enough and fast enough to where you can use him as a big wide receiver, or you can play him in as a tight end. There's so much that Sean McVay would be able to do with him. At pick 14, I have a surprise pick for, or maybe a shocking pick for, the Baltimore Ravens, and I have them selecting Jamad McCoy, the corner out of Tennessee. Marlon Humphrey has kind of been on a decline. You do have Nate Wiggins. You've thrown a lot at this position. Get Jamad McCoy, pairing him with Nate Wiggins. You have 2 young bookend corners. You can now trade away Marlon Humphrey, who has a declining production, as well as a kind of inflated cap hit. This draft is deep enough along the offensive line that they'll be able to get something in the later rounds. They have a pretty good amount of picks to build around Lamar. You're going to have a solid defense, and Baltimore has got to get back to being the defense that it's known for. At 15, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selecting edge Akeem Mesidor out of Miami. This is a player that I think really fits perfectly in what Tampa likes to do in Todd Bowles' system. Mesidor is being not for his age, but he's able to come in and play right away, and that is something that Tampa Bay is going to need in that NFC South. 16, I have the New York Jets selecting Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver out of USC. They have to get weapons. The Jets have to get good ball players with good attitudes. Sonny Styles at pick 2 is a good base, a good foundational piece. Mekhi Lemon is another one who has the attitude and the makeup that you want in a football player. Somebody who's going to come in and work, somebody who's going to grind. They're fearless on the field, and they have no true character concerns. They're good kids, good players. The Jets are building here. At pick 17, I have the Lions selecting Caden Proctor, the athletic tackle out of Alabama. Dan Quinn loves to have that swing tackle where they're throwing passes to or doing other things with. Proctor fits in perfectly in Detroit. Now that the Cardinals are on the clock, they're going to go tackle Spencer Fonda. You have Paris Johnson on the left side, put Fonda on the right side. Jacoby Brissett's your quarterback. You have to draft a quarterback this year. I don't think so. You don't have to reach, especially since this is not that draft. But being able to trade back, accumulate picks, build your roster, then you can put a good quarterback behind a good offensive line next year, behind or with a good roster next year, and truly see what you're able to do with this new coach in LaFleur. Pick 19, I have the Carolina Panthers selecting defensive end Keldrick Falk out of Auburn. This is a huge kid. The Panthers were a playoff team last year. They won the NFC South. They want to keep building. They brought in Jalen Phillips. They brought in Devin Lloyd. Continue to build and beef up that defense to really have an opportunity to stop players and give Bryce the ball. The offense was able to start generating some things last year. They've replaced or band-aid the icky injury with Rasheed Walker in the offseason. So I like what the Panthers are doing. It has taken some time, but I think they're on the right track. The Arizona Cardinals are back on the clock at 20, and I have them selected linebacker CJ Allen out of Georgia. Again, you need leaders. You need ball players. CJ Allen is that. He's a downhill football player, downhill linebacker. He can shoot the gaps, and he can run sideline to sideline. He can even wear the green dot probably as a rookie. At pick 21, I have the Steelers selecting Dylan Thieneman, the safety out of Oregon. This is a very, very expensive and a very, very old defense. You're going to have to start replacing some players. Thieneman can line up in a multitude of positions and maybe help Jalen Ramsey, who is starting to get a little bit older, but he did transition from corner to safety. So maybe that allows you to play, mix, and match with those two. 22, the Chargers select Omar Cooper Jr., the wide receiver out of Indiana. Just want to continue to get more and more weapons around Justin Herbert. The Chargers' issues was their tackles got hurt last year. They've just been dealing with injuries. At 23, I have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting Blake Miller. This is the tackle that eventually will replace Lane Johnson on the right side. At 24, I have the Browns selecting Jordan Tyson, who slides in this mock because of the injury concerns. He hasn't completed a season healthy in college football. But when you look at what this guy is able to do on the football field, him falling here, Cleveland needing to have more playmakers and more weapons for whoever their quarterback is, Jordan Tyson is a damn good ball player. At pick 25, the Browns are back on the clock after making a shocking trade. The Chicago Bears give up their 26, 27, and 28 first-round picks and send it to the Cleveland Browns for defensive end Myles Garrett. And I know that the Browns aren't going to trade him, but in this mock they did. In my opinion, they should allow the man to go have impactful seasons for the team and not just for himself. But with this trade, the Browns select Avion Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson. You pair him with Denzel Ward, or who could possibly replace Ward, who's had concussion injuries and concussion scares. At pick 27, we have Caden McDonald's going to the Buffalo Bills. They're terrible at stopping the run. He's the best run defender, the run defending defensive tackle, and I just think that's a perfect pairing. San Francisco at 27 selects tackle Max Iankor. He is a right tackle who should be able to come in and learn. He could be your swing tackle early on, depending on what goes on with Trent Williams. But Trent, who better to learn behind than Trent Williams? We have another trade at 28 with the Houston Texans sending pick 28 to the New York Giants for defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence. The Texans just gave Will Anderson a huge deal, so I don't know what their cap space is right off the top of my head. But adding Lawrence to that already fantastic defense makes them the best defense in football, if you ask me. But the New York Jets, they're going to select safety Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Harbaugh gets his Kyle Hamilton move piece, who allowed you to do so many different things. They still have Tyler Newman, who they drafted last year, as well as the safety that came over from the Dolphins from Oregon. I can't think of his name off the top of my head right now. But they have a couple of corners, but it just gives you a lot more to do with your defense, especially how Harbaugh has had defenses in the past with Baltimore. Pick 29, I'll have the Chiefs selecting defensive lineman Caleb Banks. This is a huge kid out of the SEC, just like Chris Jones was a huge kid out of the SEC. He is inconsistent. He is at times immature, but if you're able to get him in this Chiefs kingdom, in this culture, under a player like Chris Jones, somebody that he can learn from, somebody that he can feed off of, there's so much that Spags can do now with this defense. They're going to have to rebuild and replace and replenish this defense along, in my opinion, all levels. At pick 30, I have the Miami Dolphins selecting TJ Parker, the edge out of Clemson. This is a really good pickup. Again, you just need good football players. We have another trade. Pick 31, I have the New England Patriots sending their first, third, and fifth round picks to the Philadelphia Eagles for wide receiver A.J. Brown. And with the pick, the Eagles select Malachi Lawrence, the edge out of UCF, who is really, really starting to skyrocket up people's draft boards and could fall into that early round 2, late round 1 seeding. At pick number 32, we have the Super Bowl champion selecting Cassius Howe, the defensive end edge rusher out of Texas A&M. On to round 2, the New York Jets, Peter Woods, defensive lineman out of Clemson. Again, replenishing this defense. We're filling it with ball players, filling it with guys who can come in and make an impact. At 34, the Cardinals select Ty Simpson. Now, if he goes to the second round, in my opinion, he doesn't deserve. He's not worthy of a first-round pick, in my opinion. I think this here is a perfect pick here, a perfect range for him. You don't care about the fifth year option with the first-round pick, especially when you look at how deep the next year's crop of quarterbacks truly are. Ty Simpson hasn't had a lot of starts. He doesn't have a lot of experience. This is something that hindered Trey Lance. It's something that hindered Anthony Richardson, just a few quarterbacks off the top of my head. So Ty Simpson being able to come in at 34, sit behind Jacoby Brissett, they've already started to build up the offensive line and build up the defense and give him a true chance when he does get a chance. The Tennessee Titans at 35 select Anthony Hill Jr., the linebacker out of Texas. You don't get a chance to get Sony Styles, so you come in the second round. Here we go, Anthony Hill. At 36, the Raiders select wide receiver Denzel Boston. Great jump ball, great back fade ball catcher. We know what Fernando Mendoza is great at. He had Elijah Sarah, a big body wide receiver. Denzel Boston, pairing him with the tight ends, pairing him with Ashton Genty, you're really, really building now around this young quarterback. At pick 37, I have the Giants selecting wide receiver Jeremy Bernard out of Alabama. Everything that he does on tape is boring, which is a good thing. He consistently catches the ball. He breaks tackles. He can give you return man option. He can truly be number one until Malik Neighbors is truly healthy, and then he's able to slide into that number 2 or 1B role. At 38, the Texans, who are now on the clock, select Keelan Rutledge, the guard out of Georgia Tech. The Browns at 39 select Zion Young, the edge rusher out of Missouri after trading away Myles Garrett. 40, the Chiefs go Eli Stowers, the tight end out of – what the hell was that? The tight end out of Vanderbilt. This is a big, fast tight end who can be split out as a wide receiver, who gives you a tight end of the future when Kelsey is able to – when Kelsey does hang it up or moves on. But this gives you a good player to come in and learn under Travis Kelsey. Where we at? Try to spitball fire this. All right. 41, the Bengals, Lee Hunter, defensive lineman out of Texas Tech. At 42, I like this player, Chris Bell, who he's not as consistent as you would like. But when he gets the football in his hands, he's like a faster Deebo Samuel. He is a big, physical, run after the catch guy, almost like a running back. Really, really, really good ball player. Should come in and pair nicely with Chris Olave down in New Orleans. At pick 43, the Miami Dolphins select Colton Hood, cornerback out of Tennessee. 44, we have another trade. We have the Minnesota Vikings sending Jonathan Grenard in a 5th-round pick to the New York Giants for the 44th pick. And with that pick, they select Christian Miller, the defensive lineman out of Georgia. A massive hole is left on this defensive front after Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrove were both released. Christian Miller is a huge man who can come in and fill immediately. The Ravens select Caleb Lomu, the tackle or guard. He can play on the right side, or he can play guard. He's still a young tackle out of Utah. Casey Concepcion slid a little bit here in this draft, but he's picked up here at 46 to Tampa Bay. He is pretty inconsistent, has a lot of looks like mental drops on film, but he's a really good deep threat. Once he does get the ball in his hands, he's extremely dynamic, and he also is going to give you return man versatility. 47, we have another trade. We have the Steelers sending a 53rd pick and a 7th this year to the Indianapolis Colts for the 47th, and they're selecting Emmanuel Pregnon, guard out of Oregon. We know that Chris Ballard does like to trade. The Steelers have a ton of draft capital, and which will really allow them to move up and down the draft board. At 48, we have the Falcons selecting R. Mason Thomas. This is an edge out of Oregon. This is a need now, especially with the James Pierce issues with off the field issues. At 49, the Browns select Chase Basantes, the guard out of Texas A&M. 50, the Detroit Lions, Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker out of Texas Tech. He can come in and fill the gap left by Alex Anzalone leaving. Carolina Panthers select Sam Heck, the center out of Kansas State, continuing to rebuild or continue to fortify that offensive line in front of Bryce Young. At 52, the Green Bay Packers select Brandon Sissy, the corner out of South Carolina. At 53, the Colts select Caleb Tiernan out of Northwestern to come in and potentially replace Braden Smith, who went to the Texans. The Eagles at 54 select AJ Halsey. This is a guy who is going to put his pads on you, and he's going to get his hands on the football. He's a turnover machine. I like that pick up there. Jennings Dunker can come in and play guard at 55 to the Chargers, and the Jaguars at 56 select Jadarian Price, the other running back out of Notre Dame. Now we're in the round 3, guys. 65, the 65th pick, Arizona Cardinals select wide receiver Skylar Bell. 66, the Tennessee Titans select D'Angelo Pons. I could see D'Angelo Pons going in the second round, but with the trades and everything that I made, he just kind of slid. And a lot of it's the size. If he was 6 feet, he'd probably be a first-round corner with his athleticism, his play, his fearlessness, his intensity, everything. I love this kid. At 67, we have the Raiders selecting Darrell Jackson Jr., the defensive lineman out of Florida State. The Philadelphia Eagles at 68 select Max Clare, tight end out of Ohio State. 69th pick, the Houston Texans select Caleb Proctor, the defensive lineman out of Southeastern Louisiana. This pick may not happen with the Dexter Lawrence trade, but even with the Dexter Lawrence trade, you don't know how the re-signing is going to take place, if they're going to extend him and give him a big deal or whatever the case may be. But the Texans have the draft capital. The Texans have the cap space. The Texans have the team to continuously just load up. At 70, the Cardinals take the edge, Gabe Akis out of Illinois. 71, the 71st pick, Washington Commanders select Mike Washington Jr., the running back out of Arkansas, pairing him as a physical, dynamic back. They would love to get Jeremiah Love in the first round, but since they don't, and they don't have a second-round pick, Mike Washington is a really good consolation prize. At 72, the Bengals select Keith Abney, the second corner out of Arizona State. They have to rebuild this defense. The 73rd pick, the New Orleans Saints select Xavier Harris, defensive lineman out of Mississippi. 74th pick, we have the Chiefs selecting Trayden Stukes, the corner nickel player out of Arizona. At 75, the Dolphins select Elijah Surratt, the wide receiver out of Indiana. 76, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Garrett Nussmeier, quarterback out of LSU. This would be a really good pickup, especially if Aaron Rodgers comes back as expected. Nussmeier had an up and down season. Then he got hurt, but late 2 seasons ago, he was playing really, really good football. If he's able to come in, I think this would be a quarterback Mike McCarthy would be able to actually work with and grow. At 77, we have the Buccaneers selecting guard Jalen Farmer out of Kentucky. 78, we have the Indianapolis Colts selecting linebacker Jake Galladay out of Cincinnati. We have to get us a linebacker. 79, the Atlanta Falcons select Davison Igbeson, the cornerback out of Ohio State. And at 80, the Baltimore Ravens select Jake Slaughter, center out of Florida. They have to get them a center after Linderbaum left in free agency. At 81, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting Kyle Lewis, the linebacker, safety-esque, if you will, out of Pitt. This would be a good pickup for Jacksonville. Bryce Lance, wide receiver from North Dakota State, goes to the Minnesota Vikings at 82. Now, there could be some movement happening with Jordan Addison. He's had a few off the field incidences. He's going to be coming up for a contract extension. So, do you want to have two top tier paid, anyways, wide receivers, or do you want to prepare yourself for life after? At 83, the Carolina Panthers select Dominic Orange, the defensive lineman out of Iowa State. 84, the Green Bay Packers select tackle Markel Bell, who is like 6'9". He's an enormous man. 85, the Steelers select Derek Moore. You're going to have to eventually think about life without TJ Watt because he is getting older. And honestly, in my opinion, they should have rebuilt the entire roster and traded some of these aging veterans. 86, Joshua Joseph out of Tennessee goes to the Chargers, the edge. He can come in and learn behind Khalil Mack. 87, the Miami Dolphins select safety Kamari Ramsey out of USC. This would be a really good pickup after trading away Minka Fitzpatrick. And at 88, the Jacksonville Jaguars select tight end Sam Roush out of Stanford. Round 3, we're still here. Bud Clark. This will be a really, really good pickup, especially after trading and getting Myles Garrett. You get Bud Clark, who just always seems to find the football in your back end, especially after Brissett and Kevin Byard are both left in free agency. Ted Hurst, the wide receiver out of Georgia State, goes to the Dolphins at 90. Deontay Lawson, linebacker out of Alabama, goes to the Buffalo Bills at 91. Dalen Everett, corner out of Georgia, goes to Dallas Cowboys at 92. And Demetrius Crown over tackle out of Texas A&M goes to the LA Rams at 94. And a really good pickup I like, he gets to stay in Florida, is Devin Moore, the corner out of Florida, going to Miami at 94. Moore is 6'3" and some change. He's a really, really long, really, really versatile, really, really good corner who can come in and develop. They're going to have to develop. They being the Miami Dolphins have got to hit on a lot of their draft picks the next few years if they truly want to dig themselves out of this hole that they did with the Tua contract. In our last few picks, we have Brian Parker, the second tackle, going to the Patriots at 95. Jonah Coleman, running back out of Washington, going to the Seahawks at 96. Genesis Smith, safety out of Arizona, is going to the Minnesota Vikings at 97. DeJon Stribling, wide receiver out of Mississippi, ironically goes to the Eagles at 98 after they traded away a wide receiver from Ole Miss. Chandler Rivers, the corner out of Duke, goes to the Steelers at 99. And at the 100th pick, the last pick of this mock draft, Rayshawn Benny, defensive lineman out of Michigan, is going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Guys, I think this is a really, really, really good mock draft. Of course, I'm biased. You guys tell me what you think down in the comment section. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Let me know who you think your team should pick or what trades you think are realistic and are not. Some players that I considered trading, one is Brandon Ayuk, but I think he's more than likely going to get released after the draft. I don't think anyone's going to want to give up any bit of capital for a wide receiver, for anybody who's so disgruntled, and his situation is really, really weird. I could see the Commanders as a landing spot where he gets to play with his college quarterback. A lot of wide receivers that have gotten to do that. It seems to have been working out for him. But again, guys, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Do me that solid. I'm going to drop this whole video all at once. I might try to break it down throughout the week so that you have the first round, the second round, and the third round. But again, guys, enjoy the draft, subscribe and like.